Down, down with police killing, down!
We are going all the way, every ghetto to ghetto, telling them to stop killing our kids. Mothers are crying, sisters, everybody. We are all hurt by this injustice of police brutality.
Albert was a breadwinner for us.
So we know we are not above the law, so like we had to comply to everything that they were telling us, yeah. Because they were friendly at some point, they were not harsh or something of the sort. So we had to comply as well. Albert left in safe hands.
The dark truth inside Kenya's police cells. There is a silent crisis growing inside Kenya. A crisis that no longer shocks people the way it should. A crisis where suspects walk into police stations alive, but never walk out again. And now, many Kenyans are beginning to ask terrifying questions. Are police cells becoming death chambers? The death of teacher and activist Albert Ojwang became the spark that reignited national outrage across the country. A young teacher, a blogger, and a citizen using his voice online, arrested, transferred to Nairobi, locked inside a police cell, and hours later, he was dead. At first, police reports claim Ojwang had injured himself inside the cell. But as investigation unfolded, disturbing details began emerging. Postmortem reports pointed towards assault. IPOA investigation reportedly found evidence suggesting he died inside the cell itself. Even more alarming, reports later claimed CCTV system at the station had been tampered with. And suddenly, what looked like another unfortunate incident turned into something much bigger, a symbol of a growing national crisis. Because Albert Ojwang was not the only name. In June 2025 alone, IPOA confirmed it was investigating at least 18 deaths linked to police custody across Kenya. Only weeks later, that number reportedly crossed 20 cases. 20 deaths in just days and weeks. That statistic alone shocked the nation. And for many Kenyans, this confirmed something they had feared for years. These are no longer isolated incidents. This is becoming a pattern. During protests demanding justice for Ojwang, another tragic name emerged: Boniface Kariuki, a young street vendor reportedly selling masks during demonstration in Nairobi. Video circulating online showed him being shot at a close range during anti-police brutality protest. The incident intensified public anger even further. Days later, reports confirmed he had died from the injuries. And suddenly, the conversation shifted from one death to an entire system under scrutiny. Across Kenya, citizens began revisiting older cases. Stories of suspects mysteriously collapsing in cells, alleged suicides, detentions without explanation, disappearances after arrests, and families receiving bodies instead of justice. Human rights activists have reportedly warned that police brutality, torture, and deaths in custody are becoming deeply normalized in the country. And perhaps that normalization is the most dangerous thing of all. Because when society starts hearing another suspect died in custody and moves on after 2 days, that is when a nation slowly loses its conscience. What makes these issues even more painful is that police officers are supposed to represent safety, protection, law, order, and trust. And to be fair, many officers across Kenya serve under difficult conditions. Long hours, dangerous environments, mental pressure, and political interferences. But no pressure, no frustration, and no authority should ever justify torture or deaths in custody. Because a police cell is not a courtroom, and an officer is not judge, jury, and executioner. Every Kenyan, whether innocent or guilty, deserves due process, the right to legal representation, the right to safety, and the right to appear before a court alive. Anything less is not justice, it is abuse of power.
It is very shameful that the police were supposed to protect us, that plays reverse psychology. Police, shame on you, side with the citizens who pay your salary through our taxes. Yes.
The protest following Ojwang deaths reveals something deeper happening among Kenyan youths. A generation losing trust in institutions. Many young people no longer believe investigations lead to accountability. They no longer believe powerful people face consequences. And every new death inside custody widens that distrust even further.
Don't bring everything into transparency and mention these names, tell us what they did, the kind of, if they do everything correctly, I'll actually believe that Kenya is a very good country. We have very good leaders. We have very good independent institutions that can actually deal with cases.
Online, outrage exploded. Citizens demanded resignations, independent investigations, justice for victims, and an end to what many describe as a culture of impunity inside the police service. Some officers connected to Ojwang's death were later charged. IPOA launched investigations. Senior officials came under public pressure. Even internationally, the case attracted attention. But for many Kenyans, the real question remains, will this finally change anything? Or will the country move on until the next death happens? Because history has shown something painful. Outrage in Kenya burns hot, but sometimes very briefly. And systems survive when public memory fades. So what exactly needs to change? First, every police station in Kenya should have a mandatory 24-hour CCTV surveillance in all cells and interrogation rooms. And not just cameras that mysteriously stop working during investigations. Tampering with surveillance evidence should become an automatic criminal offense. Second, police officers conducting arrests and operations should wear body cameras. Every arrest, every transfer, and every interrogation, not only to protect civilians, but also to protect honest officers from false accusation. Third, every death in custody must trigger automatic independent investigation, not internal silence. Not conflicting police statements, not delayed reports. Independent oversight must become immediate and mandatory. Fourth, officers found responsible for torture or unlawful killings must face swift prosecution regardless of ranks or political connections, because accountability delayed becomes accountability denied. Fifth, Kenya must invest in mental health support and human rights training within the police service itself. As stressed, angry, militarized police culture eventually becomes dangerous to the very citizen it was created to protect. And finally, the culture of fear must end. Citizens should never fear entering a police station. Parents should never panic after hearing their child was arrested. And no Kenyan should disappear or die mysteriously while under state protection. Because once people begin fearing law enforcement more than criminals, society itself begins breaking down. This issue is no longer about politics. It is no longer about tribes or social class, because injustice has no permanent target. Today it might be an activist, tomorrow it might be a student, a journalist, a protester, a businessman, or simply an ordinary Kenyan caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. And perhaps that is the most frightening truth of all. A nation does not collapse overnight. It collapses slowly, when citizens stop believing the law protects them equally. So now Kenya stands at a crossroad. One path leads towards accountability, reforms, transparency, and justice. The other leads towards fear, silence, and normalized brutality. And the direction the country takes will depend on whether citizens continue demanding answers or eventually becoming too exhausted to care. Because silence protects systems, but accountability protects people. If you believe no Kenyan deserve to die mysteriously in police custody, then this conversation cannot end here. What reforms do you think Kenya urgently needs to stop deaths inside police cells? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you value truth-driven documentaries, deep African stories, and powerful conversations shaping our future, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and become part of this growing community. Because sometimes, the most dangerous thing in any society is not the violence people witness, but the violence people slowly become used to. Been yours truly, unruly, Jayuga, and life as it is diaries continues.
Was featured in our discussion tonight. So, kabla hiyo, what up people? Yo.